Over the past 19 seasons on the Pro Bowlers Tour, there have been memorable moments and outstanding personalities such as Don Carter, the first true superstar of this sport. Dick Weber was Carter's early rival on the PBA Tour and later went on to dominate his profession throughout the 60s. Earl Anthony has won more titles and career prize money than any bowler in PBA history. The new breed is 29-year-old Mark Roth, the only bowler ever to convert a 7-10 split on the Pro Bowlers Tour telecast. Live for the 20th consecutive year, ABC Sports presents the season premiere of the Pro Bowlers Tour. Today, the finals of the $125,000 Miller High Life Classic, as these top 5 bowlers compete for the $21,000 first prize. In 5th place from Burleson, Texas, the defending champion, Gary Dickinson. In 4th place from Kingsport, Tennessee, the Tennessee Twister, Steve Martin. In 3rd place from Spring Lake Heights, New Jersey, winner of 23 PBA titles, Mark Roth. In 2nd place from Buffalo, New York, one of the rising young stars on the Pro Bowlers Tour, Tom Baker. And our leader from Medford, Oregon, the flamboyant and explosive Marshall Holman. And welcome to the Wonder Bowl in sunny Anaheim, California. It's only about 70 degrees outside. We have a warm, friendly crowd inside, and I'm delighted to be back beginning the 3rd decade of the Professional Bowlers Tour. I'm Chris Schenkel here in California. 16 stops, a record purse total of $1,900,000 in a new concept on the weekends of May and June here on ABC, along with the PBA. 5 finals of the Spring Tour. All the greatest professionals in the world will be on those telecasts as well. Speaking of greatness, former president of the PBA, and of course last year, 4th leading money winner, my colleague Nelson Burton Jr.
Thank you, Chris. Chris, to open the 81 season, we have the Miller High Life Classic, and we have one of the most competitive pairs of lanes that we use all year for today's telecast. On this pair last year, every match went right down to the 10th frame, and the player that wins today is going to be the player that can perform in the clutch. And the players that know these lanes are the top 5 players. In the number 5 position is defending champion Gary Dickinson. He goes against the U.S. Open champion Steve Martin. The winner of that goes against Mark Roth, who has dominated bowling the last 5 years. And in the semifinal match is steady Tommy Baker. And in the final position round is one of the most controversial figures we have on the Pro Bowlers Tour, a man who just came off a 10-week suspension for misconduct on the lanes, and he knows this pair, and he's ready to go today, Marshall Holman.
Actually, he's a nice guy. Here he is, Marshall Holman. 10 down weeks, Marshall. This week has to make up for part of that disappointment.
Well, you're right, Chris. You know, I came out in 1981 wanting to get a good fast start. I need to win a couple tournaments, make a little money. 1980 was a little lean. Those 10 weeks at home were pretty tough to take, but the commissioner made his decision. I had to abide by it, and that's all in the past. I'm looking straight forward.
Attaboy, you have a chance to win $21,000 today. The purse breakdown to the winner, $21,000, $11,000 to the professional bowler that finishes second, $7,500, $6,000, $5,000 in the Miller High Life Classic. And in our first match, Gary Dickinson will be going against Steve Martin. Bo and I will be back after this.
This ranch doesn't run without horses, and the horses don't run without you. But when you've hammered out a day's work, you meet up with Miller Time.
When it's time to relax,
Time for the best tasting beer you can find.
one beer stands squeeze.
Miller High Life.
If you've got the time, we've got the beer.
How do you grow a great cigar? Master planter Ralph Merrill knows. Plant special Dutch Masters tobacco seedlings in a fertile valley. Control the searing sun with clouds of special cloth. And wait. Now select only the best leaves and harvest them all by hand. That's how Ralph Merrill grows a great cigar. Like the Dutch Masters president, there really are masters at Dutch Masters.
Introducing an American car built for a changing world and designed with a commitment to quality. The beautifully new Ford Granada in a new smaller size with its highest mileage ratings ever. And with Ford's attention to detail, every door is hand adjusted, every seat is hand fitted, every car is examined during assembly by no less than 38 quality inspectors. The kind of detail you can see, feel, and hear.
Now, 12% annual percentage rate financing at your participating Ford dealer.
And here we go. Anaheim, California, right to the competition. We're live. Nelson Burton Jr. and I'm Chris Schenkel, ready for match one along with you. Gary Dickinson, the Texan, originally from Oklahoma. There he is, tall, 6'4", going against Steve Martin, who happens to be the youngest member of this group of five. First shot, Bo, coming up.
Gary Dickinson, defending champion, knows his pair of lanes, performed excellent last year.
37-year older. So our 1981 PBA Tour and our ABC Sports telecast is underway. And what a perfect way to start. A beautiful pocket hit and a strike. Now we go to the 5'6", 170-pound, 22-year-old Steve Martin from Kingsport, Tennessee. So our match is all even. Oh, perfect.
Steve Martin, one of the young players on the tour, has had so much success. He's low to the line. Watch this wrist action, a good arm swing, and a tremendously powerful ball. Look at that arm swing at the back. The wrist cock, and then releases it just at the bottom of the swing. Fingers coming underneath. Nice low at the line. Excellent.
Here's the man that made his professional debut right in this tournament. He placed 15th in 1977, and his career has been on the rise ever since. And Harry Golden, 20 years with our telecast. PBA has called for a re-rack on the left lane, Bo.
Chris, each player gets one re-rack per game. It just might be in his own mind that the pins are off spot a little bit.
Going for a double now in our first match. So it's a double. Steve Martin, who averaged 217 this week, 217.7. That's phenomenal, Bo, and you think you professionals can bowl with such high averages.
Well, Chris, they bowl 42 games over a 4-day period, and all these players are in super shape, and you have the cream of the crop, the players that are hitting the lanes the best that week. Dickinson naturally loves the Miller High Life Open, back in contention to defend his title.
Hoping to double. We are perfect. 2 frames each bowler. We have 4 strikes.
In contrast to Steve Martin, the profile of very tall 6'4" Gary Dickinson. Watch how he opens that right shoulder to accommodate the line that he's playing. He opens up as much as he wants to belly the ball or swing it out. And then a locked elbow release. That's an excellent form, and it's good under pressure whenever you can keep that elbow locked.
Now on the left, excuse me, Bo, in the left lane now, it's Gary Dickinson trying for a 3-bagger in our first match. Attained it. So shorter and stocky. Steve Martin back up. Incidentally, the winner of this match will meet the great Mark Roth. And there you get an idea of the titles. 3 for Martin. 4 perfect 300 games. And should we have a 300 in our telecasts throughout 1981, $10,000. That one didn't come up. Slid right by the pocket.
The 2-8-10, Chris, and the contrast in styles between Dickinson and Martin. Dickinson, a line ball bowler who doesn't throw much hook. Martin depends on the big hook, and when he get it wide like that, you'll often leave that 2-8-10. The ball slides too far and then breaks too late.
Well, how do you professionals try to convert this?
Very difficult shot, Chris. You almost have to go for the 2-8 and hope you get a lucky kick out of the pit area.
So it is an open frame, having knocked down the 2 and the 8, leaving the 10. And Gary Dickinson, who stares down at the approach and not at his opponent, has an opening, and Steve Martin now will go to the left lane and try to come back, as these pros so often do. There you see the right hand, the bowling hand of Gary Dickinson. After an open frame, a beautiful comeback by Steve Martin, who is now trailing by 25. Dickinson will be shooting next with 3 in a row after this.
Now, the Firestone steel-belted Trax 12 radial.
Trax 12 has special traction bars for pulling power in snow, but they're hidden in the Trax 12 tread for smooth, quiet turnpike driving. Long-lasting Trax 12 with traction you can see. Traction 12 months a year. Trax 12, Firestone's lowest priced steel-belted white wall radial.
A bright red fire truck, a blue calliope, a yellow moon, a pink balloon, a golden Dixie jamboree. Yes, America's true colors come through on GE.
GE TV brings you America's true colors, vivid and lifelike. And with GE's special VIR2 circuit, the color is automatically adjusted.
Yes, America's true colors come through on GE. GE, we bring good things to life.
37-year-old Gary Dickinson now with the three-bagger, three in a row in our very first match, leading by 25 over Steve Martin. Will be shooting on the right lane in the fourth frame. Winner of this first match will meet Mark Roth. And it's a four-bagger. And speaking of Mark Roth, Nelson Burton is with Mark now.
With me, Mark Roth. Mark, we expected the scores to be rather low, and yet the players have started off with a bunch of strikes. What seems to be the difference on this pair of lanes today?
Well, ball, it seems to me that the lanes are a little bit tighter than they were yesterday. I know ball on 17-18 last night. I used a hard shell ball on 18, and today I'm using the same ball in both lanes.
Okay, back to you, Chris.
Now let's see if it can become a five-bagger in this first match. Four fine strikes, shooting on the left lane. Gary Dickinson leading by 35. High hit leaving the sixth pin, so his string is broken at 4 in this first match. Gary Dickinson, who now lives in Burleson, Texas. Horse lover, he and his wife Helene. They have 5 Appaloosa and quarter horses. Good choice, breeds. Cross lane. All right. Continuing to mark with a spare in the 5th frame while his opponent had an open frame in the 3rd. We're looking at Steve Martin, but he came back on the left lane with a strike. Now hoping to double, trailing by 34.
Can cut that lead down to 24 with a double. Chris, the key, I think, is going to be the right-hand lane, lane 18. The players said they had no trouble with this lane during the week because of the grain of the wood. We'll develop that a little more after the shot.
Just a tough break. Little action, little movement on the 4-pin, but it still stands. Roth to meet the winner. The winner of that next match then will meet Tom Baker, and tournament leader, whom you saw at the top of our show, waiting in the wings, and his name is Marshall Holton. Martin working on that gum. So for Martin, Bo, it's a spare in the 5th frame.
Chris, the left-hand lane, 17, the players like. It seems like all the boards in the playing area are very smooth, and the ball rolls very true. The right-hand lane, as we saw Steve Martin in the 3rd frame, when he went wide, he hit what we call a hard board or greeny board, and the ball hung wide, and he got a split. He tried to compensate for it in the 5th frame by slowing up, letting the ball break a little more, left the 4-pin. So it's a matter of touch on the right-hand lane and stay consistent on the left.
The man that started the tournament in 2nd place is never lower than 4th. So, Mr. Consistency of this week in particular, with a strike in the 6th frame, Steve Martin, Kingsport, Tennessee. A spare up shooting now in the 6th frame, Gary Dickinson.
The advantage in a match like this goes to Dickinson when you have a spotty board or spotty part of the lane. Gil Sliker just missed the finals, finishing 6th this week, the alternate. Dickinson has the advantage in that he doesn't have to cross those boards. He goes with the boards and with the green. He should hit the right-hand lane better than any other player.
And that gleaming bowling ball nearly found the 1-3 pocket, but the 10-pin is left on the right lane. 33-pin lead, Gary Dickinson. And the pins falling, you undoubtedly hear them. The practice shots of Mark Roth. That's what Gary has done this week. 212 in 1980, 215 this week, and on the TV pair, 197 average. All right.
And you saw Dickinson with his patented two-fingered shot across those spares kill that ball and use accuracy. As the scoreboard shows, Dickinson by 33 through 6, spare working.
Our first stop in a tour of 16 cities. Next week, Las Vegas, then Alameda, California, on to Grand Prairie, Texas, to Houston, to St. Louis, back home, Bo.
Back home and out the Dick Weber lanes again.
That was a 7th frame shot, and now he's left the 10-pin on both lanes, Gary Dickinson.
Dickinson's showing his experience. He's 15 years older than Martin, and Dickinson is keeping the ball in play. Gary Dickinson very seldom ever beats himself. He has a 32-pin lead in this match. He's not trying to overpower the pins. Give himself some easy spares to shoot. Keep it in the pocket. Let Martin try to catch him. And you see just 2 fingers in the ball, thumb and middle finger for Dickinson on his spares.
And a very smooth delivery with the locked arm. Covers the 10 for a spare in the 7th. We'll return to Anaheim after this.
Good night.
Mr. Secretary, hope you're finished by next week. Being a league secretary is indeed overwhelming. But tonight, the whelm turns. Tonight, I'll get all the scores, averages, handicaps, team averages, team standings, high series, all automatically. Thanks to AMF Data Magic. First, automatic scorekeeping with Magic Score, and now, automatic record-keeping with Data Magic. AMF has made my job a snap.
Ooh.
Got tough congestion? Sinex is the long-acting nasal spray that can give you a second of and 10 hours of instantly. Medicated Vicks vapors penetrate your nose with a powerful feeling of relief. And Sinex decongesting medicine shrinks swollen nasal membrane so air can flow through. You breathe free up to 10 full hours. For tough congestion, get the Sinex extra feeling of relief. A second of 10 hours of
This live telecast is originating at the Wonder Bowl in Anaheim, California. Professional Bowlers Tour, 20th year, 22-year-old Steve Martin, shooting in the 7th with a strike up. And he cuts the lead to 22 pins here in our very first match.
Smart move by Martin. He went back to where he had hit the light shot and left the 2A10 and just gave it more power. And by that, he just moved his wrist through the ball a little harder with a little less speed. Watch how he keeps his head down. Watch that arm swing close to his body and the wrist action to impart the tremendous revolution on the ball. Just excellent there. He ripped the rack, cutting them lead to 22 pins. And his wife looks on.
Kim looks very apprehensive. That was sort of a forced smile. But warmed up as it went along.
Martin with a strike in the 8th can cut the lead to 12 pins.
All right, and the fan of jogging and golf, Steve Martin has 3 in a row, and oh, what a match. Down to 12 pins now. Here's the leader.
You can see the difference between Steve Martin when he was 18, 19 out here. He just went with all power all the time when in a crucial situation. Those last 2 shots were finesse shots. Put the ball in the pocket, make Dickinson come after him. We now have a match, 2 frames left, only 12 pins separation.
With a spare working for him, shooting in the 8th frame, Gary Dickinson. Leaving the 4-7 on the right lane.
Dickinson just being a little apprehensive with the shot. He's trying to protect that lead, which is smart, but he just softened up on the ball and let it roll high. On a PBA tour and in all other bowling, you have to keep a consistent speed. You can't be fast with one shot, slow with the next. Dickinson is not staying consistent with his speed.
35-pin lead is down to 10 now. All right, there in frame number 8 of our first match. And there you see only 10 pins. And Gary Dickinson starting in 5th position against number 4 finisher in the Miller High Life Classic, Steve Martin. Moving to the left lane, Bo, in the big 9th frame.
The foundation frame, Chris. Both players have a possible 245 if they strike out. So Dickinson still has that 10-pin lead, but if he doesn't strike here, Martin can get up and shut him out.
Just a little tentative, Bo.
Trying to aim the shot, trying to be too careful. The 6-7-10 is open the door for Steve Martin. Dickinson must go for it. Cross lane, has no frames to waste. Dickinson can maintain his lead of 7 pins if he makes this. If he doesn't convert it, Martin will take the lead while sitting on the bench.
For the professionals, the odds on the 6-7-10, 10-1. Oh, he gets it! A beautiful conversion of a 6-7-10. What a way to begin 1981. Oh, that was sheer professionalism.
What a tremendous spot to make that split. It turns the whole match around. Steve Martin sitting on the bench saying, wow, I got a chance to shut him out, win this match easily. And look at this, the 6-7-10 conversion by Dickinson.
And Gary saw the replay on one of the monitors down on the approaches here at Wonder Bowl, and it drew a smile.
Martin trails by 7, can take the lead with one more strike, 9th frame.
He's got a double up. Here we go, Bo.
And his wife,
210.
Kim, she knows the possibilities here. The very difficult 210. Chris, the 2-8-10, much more difficult to convert. But the 210, we can try to slide the 2-pin over into the 10.
There you see the odds for the pros. 4-1. Let's see if Steve can do that. Waste no time. Two brilliant conversions. 6-7-10 by Gary Dickinson, and now Steve Martin. That makes the adrenaline push a little.
Concentration, experience, determination, all epitomize this shot. The 210 conversion by Martin to keep him in the match.
Mark Roth, who will meet the winner, was practicing off in the right, but boy, he quit immediately, and watch this phenomenal stroking.
Steve Martin trails by 9. He needs a double to force Gary Dickinson to mark.
There's one. Giving him 193 through the 9th with a strike up. Kim Martin.
Chris, if there's any advantage, it has to be slightly with Dickinson because he does have the lead by 9. But with one more strike, Martin finishing on the better or the easier of the two lanes, the left-hand lane, can take the lead with a strike. We also have a possibility of a tie. Martin going into 213 pace with one more strike will be working at 223. Dickinson's working 222.
And in the event of a tie, it's a 2-frame roll-off. Gary staring at the floor. What pressure. Accepting the pressure. That's why they're on the Professional Bowlers Tour.
What a tremendous match, Chris. No mistakes made by these players. They've converted the tough splits. They've been there in the clutch. They've played the lanes perfectly, and it's come down to who can perform in the 10th, just like it always has in the Miller High Life Classic on this pair of lanes. Situation becomes this. If Martin strikes on this ball, he forces Dickinson to double. If Martin would happen to get 9, Dickinson could strike spare, and we'd have a tie in our very first match of the season.
On the left lane, this man has 6 strikes in a row.
Possibility of a tie, Chris. 222 for Martin. Dickinson must strike on the first ball. A double to win, strike spare to tie. If Dickinson does not strike on this ball, he does not win. This is a must strike.
Sounds so final, Bo. It's really tough out there.
Well, this is the same situation Dickinson was in last year, and he performed so well under the pressure. He knows how to do it. Calls on everything he knows.
The defending champion of the Miller High Life Classic. Gets it. A delayed dropping of the 7-pin.
Chris, these players on the tour today are awesome. Watch this style under the pressure. We talked about that locked arm swing. Watch how it doesn't fail Gary Dickinson in the clutch. See, it went right to the target. Look at that concentration down on one knee. What a tremendous shot. He's now in position to win the match.
Imagine Helene, his wife, and their 3 children back in Burleson, Texas, what they were doing on that shot.
Well, Gary just bought a new bowling center down there with 16 lanes, and I'm sure that he would like to make the first payment on it right here today. Now, here's the situation. If he strikes, he wins. If he spares, we have a tie. If he opens, Martin's the winner.
And Gary shooting on the right lane. 2-5.
Chris, we did not have a tie match last year, but we may have one now. If Dickinson converts the 2-5, they are tied at 222. If he misses it, Martin is the winner.
2-frame roll-off. Should Gary Dickinson be able now to cover the 2-5 on the right lane? Murmur. This capacity crowd. Okay. We have a tie. 222. Each professional now a 2-frame roll-off.
Chris, it's just like the 9th and 10th frame. Steve Martin will go up and bowl 1 frame on the left-hand lane. Then Dickinson will bowl what we would call the 9th and 10th. He'll get up on the right and finish on the left. Here's Martin with his first shot. Back to 0.
Here's the 4-9.
One of the problems that a power player has when he gets high in the pocket, the ball cutting very sharply through the pins and cutting out 8 pins and leaving the 4-9. 3-1 for the pros. Definitely another difficult shot for Steve Martin.
Except on the West Coast, the season's premiere, 1981 of ABC's Wide World of Sports, extended the Hula Bowl from Honolulu International Swimming at halftime. Great show. Look at that! Unreal. Converting. The 4-9 going against the big odds, Bo, twice now in this match.
Tremendous shot under pressure, the 4-9. People at home sometimes wonder what shape these players are in. Tremendous shape, perform under these pressure, pinpoint accuracy under the pressure. Dickinson now in his 9th frame. Consider this the 9th frame. 2-frame roll-off. Martin has a spare.
And leaving the bucket. Gary Dickinson on the right lane.
Well, it's as good as 9, Chris, in this situation, if he can convert it. There's no penalty with nothing up. If he can convert it, it's just another spare, and we'd be all tied through the first frame. If we'd happen to tie in a 2-frame roll-off, we'd just do it again.
Tremendous competition at the Miller High Life Classic, a total purse of $125. And these two professionals are trying for the winner's share of $21,000. They have to win here to move against Mark Roth.
For the first time in the match, Dickinson with a slight advantage. He's on the easier of the 2 lanes, finishing the 10th frame, all even. A 4-pin. The best Dickinson can get for his 9th and 10th frame is 39. He has a spare in the 9th, 9-pin count, converts his 4-pin, and a possible strike on the fill ball. He would have 39. That leaves Martin with a possibility of winning with a strike and a spare.
Okay. So the former All-State basketball player in the state of Oklahoma. Been a member of the PBA for 12 years, 7 titles. Gary Dickinson. If you just joined us, we had a 222 tie. 222. It's really too much, Bo.
Dickinson, important shot. Force Martin to strike.
Leaving the 6-10. All right.
Situation becomes this. Martin needs to fill 18 in the 10th frame. If he strikes on the first ball, he's the winner. 9 spare strike, and 9, he's the winner. But once again, remember, this is the lane that Martin has had so much trouble on. He's had 2 splits on the right-hand lane.
And Mark Roth is watching along with you.
He went to his best shot, maximum power, gave it room, trusted the ball out there, and just obliterated the rack. All he needs is 8 pins on 2 shots. That is not automatic, but it's very easy for these pros. So it looks like Martin is going to go on to meet Mark Roth in our second match.
22 years old. so Gary Dickinson loses and wins $5,000. Kim's husband, Steve Martin, will now move against Mark Roth live from Anaheim.
The Pro Bowlers Tour. This ABC Sports exclusive is being brought to you by the Miller Brewing Company, brewers of Miller High Life. If you've got the time, we've got the beer. By Ford and your local Ford dealers, who invite you to test drive the new 1981 Ford cars and trucks, including Escort, the new World Car from Ford, the World Car Company. And by Quaker State, America's #1 selling motor oil. Quaker State helps cars last.
California, Steve Martin at a tiebreaker. Sudden victory for him. 8 strikes in the regular game, 2 strikes in the roll-off. Mark Roth is his opponent next.
Is the Energizer just another battery? Is the Indy 500 just another race? The Energizer from Everready Technology. Of all leading brands, nothing outlasts, nothing outperforms the Energizer. Everready made sure. Your photo flash, calculator, toy, they'll tell you. Energize me.
The Energizer. Energize. For life.
Long life.
Now comes Miller time. The flag is dropped, the race is a memory. And now you're coasting into the best tasting beer you can find. Miller High Life, America's quality beer since 1855.
If you got the time. If you got the time. We got the beer. If you got the time.
American Defense, Reagan's billion-dollar choices. A special assignment next week on ABC's World News Tonight.
Come in and talk to us. We'll show you how easy it is to do it yourself.
Steve and his trained staff can help you with all your fencing needs at Quality Fence with 2 locations, Central Point and Roseburg. Quality Fence can supply you with all your fencing needs, from custom gates and fences to dog kennels and tennis courts. They stock flexible inserts in wood and colors to add beauty and styling to your chain link fence. Quality Fence carries brochures that'll show you how to do it yourself, or ask for a free estimate on their expert installations. For quality work, it's Quality Fence in Central Point and Roseburg.
The Medford Rexall at the Black Oak Shopping Village has what you're looking for and more. We have a great selection of over-the-counter medications and a pharmacy that can confidently fill your prescription needs. We invite you to see our book department, where you'll find over 3,000 books to choose from the bestsellers to the hard to find. And for special occasions, the Medford Rexall has one of the largest selection of Hallmark greeting cards in the Rogue Valley. Medford Rexall has what you're looking for and more, with 2 locations to serve you, in the Black Oak Shopping Village and at 101 North Central.
You're watching KOBI 5M Medford.
Now at the bottom of your screen, Martin against Dickinson. You saw, after regulation play, a 2:22 tie. Martin in the tiebreaker, 40-37 over Gary Dickinson, earning the right, and I mean earning it the hard way, to go against 23-time winner Mark Roth, the great champion. We go into that second match here at the Wonder Bowl in Anaheim, California. Chris Schenkel and Nelson Burton Jr. here watching the events with you live, and we look forward to the Hula Bowl, which will follow our telecast. From Honolulu, the great names of the college season past: George Rogers, Mark Herman, Hugh Green, Freeman McNeil, Jarvis Redwine, Ken Easley. They'll all be playing in the Hula Bowl on ABC's Wide World of Sports, and at halftime, the United States versus East Germany in international swimming. What an afternoon, Nelson.
Chris, it'll fill anybody's sports picture. Mark Roth, the higher of the 2 finishers in the tournament, has the choice of starting lanes. He wants to start on the right-hand lane and finish on 17, forcing Martin to finish on 18.
Again, we have a contrast in styles. 22-year-old Steve Martin won the first match against Mark Roth. Well, he was denied the strike, leaving the 8 pin on the left lane.
The solid 8. The pros on the tour, Chris, you use 3-pound 5-ounce and 3-pound 6-ounce pins, but with the power these players put on the ball, it often cuts through and chops the 5 pin right back off the 8. Definitely one of the true taps in the game of bowling.
222 average on television last year. That's, you believe in numbers. Steve Martin has got to love the 2s, but blows the 8.
He's a comical fellow, and he took that pretty easily, but this is a tough man to give an opening to like that. Mark Roth, the dominant figure in the game of bowling the last 5 years, off to a free start. Martin with an open. Mark Roth, first shot.
Cranking it, leaving the 10-pin. Interesting man on the approaches. Bo with the 6 steps. And
well, he's as loose and relaxed as anybody I've ever seen in the game of bowling. Tremendous arm swing. Look at that position of that arm, and watch the wrist action straight up through the ball. Look at Mark. Looks like he's throwing a straight ball because his hand doesn't go around the ball like many players that throw the big hook. It is all leverage and revolutions that gives Roth the hook and the power.
Cross lane now for the 10 on the right lane with speed to spare. Mark Roth. I'll be shooting on the left lane. He's 29 now. It's hard to believe that he's neared that 30 mark. Now living in Spring Lake Heights, New Jersey, with his wife, Jackie. The most rabid of New York Ranger fans. Lofting it out on the lanes, leaving the 2-4-5-8.
Something you often don't see Roth do. Get his feet too fast, and his swing was late. He could not get the shot through, Chris, and the ball will not finish. He went wide, and watch this ball sliding by, leaving the 2-4-5-8. Not enough leverage. Feet too fast, no leverage. Shoulders forward.
And as you have determined here in our second game, live from Anaheim, California, these are 2 fast bowlers. They take very little time once they're set on the approach. Steve Martin, if you just joined us, won in a tiebreaker over Gary Dickinson, 40-37. Regulation game 222 for each pro. All right, he had 8 strikes in the first game, and now he gets his first and trails by 7.
Chris, it looks like Martin has conquered the right-hand lane. He finished with that double in the roll-off in the 10th and 11th frame. Once again, he comes back solid in the pocket on the right-hand lane to start this match. So he could be awesome if he could start putting them together. He's found the line on both lanes.
I mentioned that he made his debut here in the Miller Classic in 1977. Well, leaving the 4-pin.
You see the power that many of these young players like Martin have and use on the Pro Bowlers Tour, but believe it or not, he's actually cut it down. This young player, I marked him 4 or 5 years ago, Chris. He was a Sporting News Player of the Year. I guess the other players did too, of being a potential superstar in this game. And now he's learned to control that power, become more accurate. He really is a man to contend with.
He's got a lot of life, a lot of spirit, as you saw there. He was very happy to cover that 4-pin and mark with a spare. And the man that leads by 7, well, he's been Mr. Bowling the last few years. And we'll see what he can do with it. 210 coming up.
It's the same shot that Martin converted. Here's the footwork of Roth. Watch the pivot step, his second to last step, where he drives off real hard, hits the foot perpendicular to the foul, and then slides a little bit through momentum. But on this particular shot, he did not get enough lift on the ball, left the 210.
So the lead has changed hands here in our second match. The winner to meet Tom Baker of Buffalo, and the winner of that semifinal to go against Marshall Holman, the tournament leader. So let's see how Roth comes back, and there you see his credentials. And aren't they something? 23 PBA titles, second in career money earnings at, well, he's approaching 700,000. Light hit, but carrying all 10 for Mark Roth here in Anaheim, California. Our live telecast will continue following this.
If you need good gas mileage, but you can't make it with a small import pickup, you're caught in a kind of tug-of-war. And Ford's the answer. Now, you'd expect good mileage from a small truck, but with 6-cylinder pickups, here's Ford's mileage breakthrough. And there's Ford's full-size cabin box and 6-cylinder power. And payload, it can actually carry the Toyota.
My name is Mike Withers. I'm a State Farm insurance agent in Rockland, California, speaking for thousands of State Farm agents all over the country. We have various reasons why we think State Farm has maintained a reputation and people keep coming back to us year after year. My personal belief is that it's the service. We deliver when the policyholder has a problem. We sell on that basis and we deliver on that basis, and people keep coming back.
State Farm is there. As you look at the 4-7-10 here on our live coverage of the Miller High Life Classic, we had to bowl through because our first match went long. It was overtime. There you see the odds for professionals in making this split, 14-1. But anything could happen when Steve Martin is bowling, as he proved in the first game in his victory over Gary Dickinson. This time, no success. So he comes up with an open frame in the fifth. Incidentally, it was a 2-22 score in that first game. Tiebreaker 40-37. But this is the second game. Mark Roth, the opponent, had the lead, lost it, back now with a strike up, leaving the 10.
Roth, his adjustment for the 210, more power. He uses more wrist action, more lift to make the ball finish harder at the back end. Now watch Roth, the power that makes him so great, and he keeps it under control. A good, smooth arm swing. But watch that wrist action with that arm close to that leg. See that wrist go straight up through the ball? Revolutions is the name of the game, not how much you can hook it. This man has it all.
Quickly now, cross line for the 10. Covered it. 63 through the fourth with a spare up here in California and a 6-pin lead.
The trouble that has befallen Steve Martin is he is not adjusting to this pair of lanes. As they've been bowling almost for 45 minutes on the air now, Chris, the lanes are beginning to break down or hook a little more. And Martin is going to have to make the move on the approach to the left with his feet and a little bit with his target to compensate.
That was a very high hit, leaving the 3-6 on the left.
Chris, as we said, this pair of lanes is a very competitive pair, and as the ball rolls down the lane, it wears off or takes off some of the conditioner that was put on by the PBA lane maintenance crew hours before we went on the air. And as this wears off, the ball has more surface friction and begins to hook more. The players must adjust.
36. Covered. R. Speed. Harry Golden, our tournament director, and our television coordinator, Frank Esposito. I'm proud to have been with them for 20 years on the Professional Bowlers Tour telecast. Oh, and our lighting director, Tony Azzolino, has been there 20. All four starting very young in life. And 22-year-old Steve Martin didn't get the break that he wanted on the 10-pin on the right lane.
A tremendous finish on the ball of Martin. He actually ripped the 5 out like we call it a swisher, but almost carried the 10 at the same time. Mark Roth making an adjustment in the thumb hole. Apparently his thumb has gone down. He said his hand was swollen a little bit before we started as he bowled. I guess the blood circulating through it has made his thumb go down. Puts a piece of tape in to adjust.
Ice cubes are very often an important part of your paraphernalia, right, Bo?
Well, Chris, taking care of your hand completely is correct. If your hand is swelling up, if players will use some ice, and if your thumb goes down or something, then you have to add tape to the ball. And Mark Roth, as we all have known, has had hand trouble over the years. You can see that patch over his thumb. All those are there to protect. Right now, his hand's in good shape, but you have to protect it. Martin, 7th frame, is trailing by 4.
His home, Kingsport, Tennessee. Another 10, this time on the left lane. Steve is very proud of the fact that around Kingsport, Bo, great largemouth bass fishing.
Well, there's the area down there, and he loves to fish, and he wants to take us on a trip sometime in the summer. He says that's when they're biting. Martin, cross lane for the 10-pin. The biggest improvement he has made in his game over the years is his ability to make spares.
So consistently now, marking here after that one open frame in the 5th. We'll be back.
For a quality design tool that's priced for home use, get this Master Mechanic 1-inch wide 25-foot power tape for just $6.75 as True Value Hardware Store's tool value of the month. Its 1-inch wide epoxy-coated blade is designed to stay rigid so you can measure even longer distances by yourself. And because it features a toggle blade lock, you can accurately take and hold measurements. This Master Mechanic 25-foot power tape is just $6.75 while supplies last, at True Value hardware stores and home centers displaying this banner.
Now, the Firestone steel-belted Trax 12 radial. Trax 12 has special traction bars for pulling power in snow, but they're hidden in the Trax 12 tread for smooth, quiet turnpike driving. Long-lasting Trax 12 with traction you can see. Traction 12 months a year. Trax 12, Firestone's lowest-priced steel-belted white wall radial.
Coming up on ABC's Wide World of Sports next Saturday, Tinseltown will never be the same when the one and only Harlem Globetrotters hit Hollywood. Plus the most important event on the World Cup circuit via satellite from Kitzbühel, Men's World Cup downhill skiing. Then on the 24th, World Cup gymnastics and World Cup ski jumping, the Springer tourney from Innsbruck. Concluding the month will be motocross racing and the unique tandem surfing championship. Travel the world of sports this January with ABC's Wide World of Sports.
Great names of college football in the Hula Bowl following our live telecast from Anaheim, California. We had to bowl through while we were away because our first game went into overtime, a tiebreaker which Steve Martin won. You see him standing there. He has just bowled in the 8th frame with a strike. While we were away, Mark Roth marked with a spare in the 7th and a strike in the 8th. This is the second game the winner to meet Tommy Baker.
Steve Martin asking for another re-rack from tournament director Harry Golden. Apparently he thinks the pin is slightly off spot that could affect his carry. And really the most important thing about that is psychologically. If you don't feel like you have a rack you can strike on, sometimes it affects the way you swing the ball or you try to aim it. Harry Golden has granted that re-rack to him and will okay this one or grant him another one. The player must be able to determine what pin is off. Only one re-rack per game. The situation is this: Martin trails by 4, can take a 6-pin lead with a double here in the 9th.
Oh, a high hit that came up very quickly.
The 3-6, 9-10, Chris, I would say the toughest spare that the pros shoot in a regular game. Very often we lead this with the ball cutting through the pins very sharply. And the key to this is carrying that 8-pin without chopping the 3 off the 6. Without a doubt, a difficult shot.
Oh, do you get much opportunity to practice a spare like this?
Not really. Some of the players don't practice it, but it definitely is one of the ones that should.
And do it like that. He's been phenomenal this afternoon, now with 136 through the 8th with the spare up. And Mark Roth is off the director's chair, just short of the approach here in Anaheim. He has that strike working, shooting in the 9th frame.
Double here would put Martin on the ropes. Once again, we see that difficult split with the ball sliding too far down the lane, all caused by that greeny board we saw in the right-hand lane. The ball hits that board and slides another 10 feet further down than the player expects. To see that ball slide by, now he leaves a 2, 4, 8, 10. Roth will go maximum speed to try to convert it.
Oh, he pumped that one. Oh, that's a tree that should never have been cut down, right?
Well, it adds to the difficulty of the game, Chris, and pros can circumvent those boards. It's just like a golfer. He has to putt around maybe an undulation in the green, and the pro bowlers have to be able to handle a tougher board or a tougher spot in the lane. But with that open frame, Mark Roth has given Martin the lead. Roth trails by 8, needs a double to take the lead again. 10th frame.
Leaving the 4 in a match that has gone back and forth. Leader has never been out in front by more than 11 pins. And this is our second match after a tiebreaker in the first.
Well, this is what we expected at the top of the telecast. Very tight matches, very competitive. Remember, it's not how big a score you shoot on the Pro Bowlers Tour on television. It's whether you win or lose. Roth, the best he could shoot is 168, and he can still win the match.
Okay. Tommy Baker has been practicing off to the right because he will meet the winner, and then the tournament leader, Marshall Holman, returning after a 10-week suspension.
Mark Roth, just the fill ball. Best he can shoot is 128, 168. Martin will just need a mark.
Stubborn 4. 167 for Mark Roth. And now carefully Steve Martin looks at the overhead score sheet. Oh.
Chris, all he has to do is fill the frame. Martin working in a 176 pace. All he needs theoretically is just a mark. A good count and a mark. Be interesting to see how he throws it on a difficult lane. You should go for the strike spot when you need a mark. There is no safety in a game of bowling. Something disturbed him, took a little extra time, and stopped. That's very difficult to do. Yes, it takes tremendous concentration. Either he's foot stuck or something to disturb him in the back.
It's not a movement by a human. It was something mechanical off to the left down at the end of the lanes.
He must convert this spare to win. Martin, the best he can shoot is 175, but that should be enough. It will be enough. Mark Roth in with a 167. Match game competition on a Pro Bowlers Tour.
Mr. Consistency this week. Started the tournament in second place, never lower than fourth. Where he actually finished going into the finals, the top 5.
Martin is going to be our winner, but Mark Roth, he'll get time to go watch a television set later on, Chris, on Wide World of Sports. One of his favorite friends, Phil Esposito, in his retirement game with the New York Rangers, later on Wide World of Sports. I know that'll make Mark happy, although he's not too happy about losing this game.
No. So his longest and biggest follow-through striking is 175, 167, and Martin goes into his third match of the day.
I've gotten over 100,000 miles with my Mercury Marquis, and it's all been with Quaker State oil.
Does Quaker State really help cars last?
I got this new little car to help me save gas. I'm counting on Quaker State to help me save the car. 8,000 miles already. This little engine works hard, but with Quaker State, no problems. More than 100,000 miles with regular care and Quaker State all the way.
There's a very simple reason why Quaker State is America's #1 selling motor oil. Quaker State helps cars last.
42!
Foul! What a call! What a heartburn. How do you spell relief? Check the board, Coach. R-O-L-A-I-D-S.
Rolaids spells relief. Unbeatable relief. Relief Tums can't beat. Relief no other leading antacid can beat.
For comic relief, I put on a frown. But for acid indigestion, I spell relief. R-O-L-A-I-D-S. Unbeatable.
Rolaids spells relief. Unbeatable relief.
RCA wants you to see the right color. Does your television automatically capture all these subtle shades of blue in this ocean of color? Color Track 1981 can. With RCA's exclusive detail processor, Color Track separates detail from color, refines it, then locks the right color on track. Even colors only subtle shades apart. Color Track 1981. RCA is making television better and better.
Professional Bowlers Tour has been unusual for 19 consecutive years, and as we go into the 20th, it's unusual with a tiebreaker in the first. Steve Martin of Tennessee won at 40-37, a 2-frame roll-off. Now, with only 4 strikes against the great Mark Roth, he wins it 175 to 167. Mark had only 2 strikes in that game, and that's unusual. So Mark will watch along with you as Tom Baker from Buffalo in the red shirt comes in the semifinal match to go against Steve Martin. And then the winner of this match, the finals for the $21,000 first prize against Marshall Holman. We're live in Anaheim, California.
2 young players we haven't seen much of on the tour, Chris, but they're going to be here many, many times again. Steve Martin and Tommy Baker.
Just like that, powerfully built, 5'6", 170 pounds, at 22 years of age. Steve Martin, now at 5'8" and 150 pounds. 26-year-old Tom Baker. He has 1 PBA title. He's been a PBA member for 6 years.
The classic style in the game of bowling. Watch Tommy Baker. His shoulders will be square, arm swing straight, nice, smooth, methodical style.
Doing the 2-4-5 in his opening stroke here in the 3rd game.
Tommy Baker watches his arm swing. It's one of the keys to his success. He slightly opens the shoulder for the amount of belly he's using. Look at how that left hand is used to balance his body all the way through. Shoulders above his hips with a nice, strong follow-through. That fidgeting action you'll always see Baker have under pressure. He has trouble getting a comfortable feel in the ball.
All right. Baker with the spare in the first frame, and you notice already he's broken into a sweat on his forehead. And his opponent, Steve Martin, in a hectic first game, got some perspiration early, went on then to win the second. And for Steve Martin, as we look at Tom Baker, it's going to be mentally and physically tiring.
Well, he's in good shape, Chris. He says he has to have a hernia operation later on in the year, but it is not bothering him today. So I'm sure thinking of 21,000 should calm him down a little bit.
And the bachelor from Buffalo, New York, leads the 10-pin.
Something that you notice all these players have in common today is the ball well lifted out on the lane. A lot of players I see at home, Chris, throw the ball out on the lane or dump it behind the foul line. Most pros will loft that ball or lift it about 18 inches over the foul line. That maximizes the control and the lift. Too much out 3 or 4 feet causes the ball to bounce and no power. And if you roll it behind the line, no lift.
Oh, lovely. Beautifully tempoed shot on the left lane, cross lane for the 10-pin. So Baker with 2 spares, and now Martin is back. He has a strikeout shooting in the second frame. Dickinson and Martin 222, 40-37 in the tiebreaker. He has just doubled. He's getting stronger.
Right, Chris. Those are the best 2 shots he's made. And here's our own leading money winners from last year. Wayne Webb, who they say may be the bowler of the year by nudging out Mark Roth with $115,000.
And Mike Albion, followed by Nelson Burton Jr. And with high interest rates, I know where to get a loan.
And you see some of the top players that we'll see all the way through our top 10 for last year. It's a whole new ball game, though. Everybody has a 0 next to their name. Martin started with a double, has an 11-pin lead, can extend to 21.
First of 16 telecasts to be followed by 5 more on the spring tour. And into the pocket. 3-bagger. Tournament leader Marshall Holman is warming up. There he is. He's led throughout most of this Miller High Life Classic. Boy, he is determined.
Chris, you didn't see his name in the top 10 money winners only because of that suspension last year. He was going through a tremendous good streak, and he was suspended for 10 weeks, knocked him out of the top 10 money winners. He wants to come back this year.
Tommy really needed that strike after opening with 2 spares. This is the semifinal match, pivotal. So it's a strike in the third for Tommy Baker, who not only likes to watch hockey, but loves to play it.
Our tournament leader, we said Marshall Holman was out of the top 10 last year. Chris, it was for conduct unbecoming a pro. Marshall had a number of fines on the tour. I think he straightened his act out. In the finale of the whole thing that caused the suspension was a kicking of the foul light on national television. The commissioner deemed that was just too much, and he was suspended. But I think he's a calm down young man. We'll see how he does in the next match.
All but the 10.
Both these are young players, but there is a contrast in style. Baker will maintain almost the same speed every house he bowls in, whether we're here in Anaheim at the Miller High Life Classic or up at Firestone in Akron. And he will adjust on the approach with his feet and with the loft of the ball, where a player like Steve Martin will adjust more with the amount of turn and the amount of speed.
Again, cross lane, left to right. And the man who last year earned $63,725 on the tour, Tommy Baker, marking with a spare, trailing by 21.
Control 6 to base. Looks like this big old hole in the ground is going to be safe for the night. Over.
They come out all beat. It's Miller time.
Miller time. Time to appreciate the difference between a good beer
when it's time to relax
and a great beer.
One beer stands clear.
Miller High Life.
You got the time. We got the beer. Miller beer. Come Miller time. We got the beer.
When you reach age 55, you're wanted by Kemper, because drivers your age or older are among the safest on the road. So the cavalry wants you. Kemper offers drivers 55 and over up to a 10% discount now and guaranteed renewal at age 60 and beyond if you've been with us for the 5 previous years. For auto discounts and guaranteed renewal, call out the Cavalry. Once you compare Kemper, you'll ride with us.
Next Saturday on ABC's Wide World of Sports, Tinseltown will never be the same when the one and only Harlem Globetrotters hit Hollywood. Also important Men's World Cup downhill skiing from Kitzbühel. Next Saturday on ABC.
Unreal, Steve Martin, as we've had to bowl through because of a tiebreaker in the first game. Just unbelievable. In the third, he left the 2, 4, 5, 8, and watch.
Watch the break on the 8 pin, the back pin. 2 pin comes out of the pit, Chris, and knocks it out, or the 4 pin. What a lucky break.
We all need that, don't we, Bo?
Tommy Baker's got to get it in gear now. Trails by 17 pins, 5th frame.
Only 1 strike through 4. Beautiful strike in the 5th frame. You know, ABC News has fast-breaking coverage of all the news events. I have one here. ABC Sports, the American Bowling Congress, announced today that Nelson Burton Jr. has been elected to the Bowling Hall of Fame. And since Nelson Sr. is in it, the first father-son combination. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you, Chris. It's a pleasure for me and my family.
I know Sissy's back there in St. Louis very happy about it all.
Well, she helped me through many years.
All right, Tommy Baker of Buffalo, New York. He would love to double right here. High hit, 3, 6, 10. So he'll be trying to cover that as we look at the next stops. Next week, Showboat Invitational, followed by the RC Alameda Open in Northern California. And we just keep going. We then move to Grand Prairie, Texas. Quaker State Open, the United States Open in Houston. We return to Houston. Haven't been there in a while. Very nice. So back to the future stop, the Rolaids Open in St. Louis, the Gateway City, the Magic Score Open, AMF in Peoria, Illinois. In the Cleveland Open, PBA National Championship, as we return to Toledo, 2 new cities this year, and the Miller High Life Open. This is a classic today. That'll be in Milwaukee, followed by the King Louis Open in Overland Park, Kansas. And Steve Martin, who's won 2 matches, we're in the semifinal, takes the 27-pin lead with a double. And the True Value Open in Miami, Florida. We welcomed them to the fold last year. And the Fairlanes Open from Baltimore, April 4th. Long Island Open in Garden City, the 11th of April. The Greater Hartford Open, Windsor Locks, the 18th of April. And then the Firestone Tournament of Champions in Akron, Ohio. And then in May and June, 5 Spring Tour telecasts on ABC. Look at him go. 3 baggers, opened with 3, marked with a spare, and now has a string of 3 again.
Martin loosened up, got through that tough match with Roth, and he is ready to roll. He has extended his lead over Baker to 37 pins through 7 frames. Baker has not really made a mistake. He's been around the pocket, just hasn't got a string of strikes together, but he has to go now, trailing by 37, 4 frames left.
And in Anaheim, that's where our live telecast is originating. Actually, our telecast from Akron, Ohio will be April 25th, the finals of the Firestone Tournament of Champions.
Tommy Baker can cut into Martin's lead. He's almost in a must situation early in this match. 8th frame, can cut the lead to 27 with a double. Baker, who started bowling at age 10, now 26, experienced, tough player on the tour, won over 60,000 last year.
Didn't get the break on the 4-pin.
As you see, Tommy Baker uses the same speed all the time. He's such a methodical player. That would have been a good situation there, Chris, to just what we call stuff it. He needed that strike. He didn't have time to finesse that one. He had to put some pressure on Martin. Has left the door wide open with just a spare here in the 8th.
So it's a mark of spare. Tommy Baker is Steve Martin, the leader. is up now in the semifinal game, and Marshall Holman, the tournament leader, continues to prepare for that final match worth $21,000 to the winner, $11,000 to the runner-up. Loser of this match will get $7,500. Happy with it? That light hit, 2-pin.
He sent that one wide. As they say, trust is a must, but that is a little too much. But Martin has the match well in hand. He just has to make his spares. But, you know, he struggled through last game with a 170 in the 170s and sees it to 230s right now. And that's just a tribute to the physical conditioning and the adjustment these pros make. He's made the adjustment on the approach and with his ball speed.
All right, spare in the 8th, 175 through the 7th. 36-pin lead. And Bo, have you been in training to start your competition in Las Vegas?
Go to Las Vegas tonight right after the telecast, and next week is the long PBA format. We start on Sunday and we'll wind up on the 17th from the Showboat Hotel with our second telecast.
In other words, you're going to compete.
Compete next week. Long tournament.
So will our statistician, bridegroom of 8 months, Palmer Falgren.
Well, he's always tough.
Well, that number 2 again, back-to-back 2-pins, I'll tell you, with a 222 score in the first. Steve Martin of Kingsport, Tennessee.
Martin not beating himself, keeping the ball in play and getting easy spares. Martin is working at a 234 pace. The best Baker can do is 219. If Baker doesn't strike on this ball, Chris, he just can't win the match. It just he would be out. The best he could do is 2-0. And Martin's already in the 220s if he'd happen to open in the 10th.
Kim's delirious. Bachelor Tom Baker having his problems here in the semifinal match. Shooting in the 9th frame now with the spare working. And he gets his 4th strike of this head-to-head match live from Anaheim.
Interesting. Tommy Baker has hit the lane that everybody had the most difficulty with. He's gotten 4 strikes, Chris, on the right-hand lane, 18. But if he doesn't strike on 17 on this shot, he cannot win. He must strike to give himself any chance at all, and then it would take a disastrous finish by Martin.
So a double by Tommy Baker.
Once again, he's in a must situation. If Baker strikes here on the 11th and then his fill ball on the 12th, he would have 219. Martin would need just a bad count and an open frame to lose the match. Baker still, to give himself any chance, must have this strike. Without it, no chance.
So he hangs in there to get near that 215 score.
He's really bowled an excellent game. He's only had one ball that wasn't right around the pocket. He had, or actually 2 balls, the 2-4-5 and the 3-6-10 in the 6th frame. And 219 is a very respectable score after what the competition we've seen so far today.
Certainly is. Took a 212 average to qualify in the top 24 in this event. 10-pin, and it's a 2-18 for Tommy Baker. Respectable, but he is against a man that hopes to win his 3rd match in a row and get into the finals against Marshall Holman.
Martin just needs 8 pins on this ball or better, and he is the winner. Will meet controversial Marshall Holman for the title 1981 Miller High Life Classic.
There it is. 3rd victory today for 22-year-old Steve Martin of Tennessee. He'll meet Marshall Holman here at the Wonder Bowl and the Miller High Life Classic after this.
Ross Billings of Dutch Master Cigars is in charge of curing the world's most expensive to-grow wrapper tobacco. Instruments in the dark curing sheds can tell him a lot, but only his master's nose can tell the moment great tobacco says it is ready to be a Dutch Master cigar.
That's beautiful.
Now you know why a Dutch Masters like our president taste so good. They really are masters at Dutch Masters.
Gee, Ollie, this windshield's so messy, I can't see. We need new wiper blades.
I know that. Make sure your windshield wipers work when you need them. A new set of Anco wiper blades every year is a quick and inexpensive way to see your way clear.
Ollie, without new Anco wipers, we could have been hit by that piano. Oh. Piano? No!
Monday, what the dynasty can't buy, Fallon Carrington takes.
I don't take anything for nothing.
What a trip. A Caribbean cruise for two, or one of 3 weekends in Reno could be as simple as signing up at Lithia Honda. What a trip. During our Drive the Caribbean sale, we're making it even more simple to own gasoline's natural enemy, a Lithia Honda. Come on in, pick up a free Honda hat, and sign up to win our Caribbean cruise at no obligation. What a trip. Where good things are always happening. In Medford, Jackson at Riverside.
He's into his 26th record-breaking year on television, and his rainbow of entertainment awaits you on The Lawrence Welk Show. Join the maestro Saturday nights at 7 on KOBI 5M. KOBI in Medford, Oregon uses these translators to enhance our viewing area.
So Steve Martin moves into the finals against Marshall Holman, the tournament leader, after 243 to 218 victory, his third in a row in our live telecast from the Wonder Bowl in Anaheim, California. I'm Chris Schenkel, and working with Nelson Burton Jr. is always a delight, and for viewers, he's always giving you bowling tips. But videotape now, the first in a mini-series of 6. These are professional bowlers' tips and lessons, and today, Bo will tell you about the equipment necessary to become a good bowler and enjoyable.
The Professional Bowler's Tip of the Week is brought to you by Rolaids.
In the sport of bowling, perhaps more than any other sport, equipment is essential to a good performance. A player has the option of either renting or purchasing his equipment. In the bowling ball department, every bowling center has house balls with a weight and a grip that should fit close to your game. But for the avid player, I recommend a custom drilled ball with a proper weight for your style. In the shoe department, every bowling center has rental shoes with leather on both the left and the right sole to accommodate both the left and the right-handed player. But for the more serious player, I recommend purchasing your own shoes with leather on the sliding sole and a rubber tip on the pivot foot for control and balance. So the decision regarding equipment is entirely up to the individual, whether to rent your equipment or buy your equipment. But regardless of your decision, remember, proper equipment is essential for good performance.
42! Foul! What a call! What a heartburn! How do you spell relief? Check the board, Coach. R-O-L-A-I-D-S.
Rolaids spells relief. Unbeatable relief. Relief Tums can't beat. Relief no other leading antacid can beat.
For comic relief, I put on a frown. But for acid indigestion, I spell relief. R-O-L-A-I-D-S. Unbeatable.
Rolaids spells relief. Unbeatable relief.
And now for $21,000. The title at stake in the Miller High Life Classic in Anaheim, California. Steve Martin, 243 to 218 over Tommy Baker, and now his opponent head-to-head is Marshall Holman. Martin will stroke first. Beautifully done. He has a tendency to open with those powerful strikes.
Chris, last year, remember, we opened this 1980 season with a tournament leader losing the first 8 weeks. It'll be interesting if that happens again this year. And I think the reason being is that the tournament leader was just not aggressive enough, but that is not the case with this young man, Marshall Holman. He is a winner, born and bred, and tough, and he has something to prove. He wants to make up for last year's losses.
Oh, what a beautiful strike. What a beautiful approach. All of the approach. And then staying low, Bo.
The low profile. Watch how his shoulders and head are nice and steady. The cupped wrist. Look at that arm swing in perfect position. Balance with the left hand. Now watch him hit the foul line. Deep knee bend. See that arm go straight through towards the target. Maximum wrist action around the ball. This man can go as far as he wants in the game of bowling. All he has to do is apply himself. He has one of the greatest talents I've ever seen.
And the professional from Medford, Oregon, who always reacts. He runs them out. He gives it to him. He's talking to the 10 pins. A double.
The power player of Marshall Holman. He gets a great break only because of his power. He trips the 2-pin off the sideboard. Notice that little flinch as he lets go with the wrist and power through the ball. And this reaction, he loves it. This is a great break.
A tough break. Concentration broken. Part of a 3-match winner already today, Steve Martin of Tennessee. He opened with a strike. Now to stay even, he must strike here in the second. Leaving the 2-pin. He knew it the minute he released it. It wasn't going to finish on.
The same shot that Holman just got fortunate enough to strike on. The 2-pin, the head pin comes off the sideboard on that shot, slides into the 4, and then backdoors the 2. Martin didn't get a great break. Here's how he got there, defeating 3 opponents.
The Hula Bowl follows live from Honolulu, except on the West Coast, as we see the 2-pin covered beautifully by Steve Martin.
The key to bowling a player like Marshall Holman, who is so aggressive and comes out of the box very fast like he always has. In this match, he started with a double, is to stay aggressive. Don't get that defeatist attitude. Remember in the True Value Open last year in Florida how Falgren was so aggressive all through the match and eventually caught Holman right at the end. Martin has to stay the same way today.
Third frame. Up and in. All right, 40 to the second with a strike up. And now Marshall Holman from Medford, Oregon, 5'9", 100 and... Well, he's listed 140, but he said because of Nautilus training now he's up to 152 pounds.
He must be carrying that Nautilus in his pocket.
And the man that would especially like to win the Miller Classic, because in 1977 he went into the finals as a top-seeded bowler but lost to Earl Anthony. And here's a replay of that shot.
The revolutions of the ball, semi-roller. Notice the ball breaking towards the pocket at about 45 feet down the lane and cutting right through. No deflection hardly at all. Tremendous power. It's all generated by the good arm swing, good wrist action and timing, and years of practice. Holman, 20-pin lead, can extend to 30.
But the 10 after a 3-bagger.
Both these players play the same style, Chris. Marshall hit light and tripped the 2-pin for a double in the second frame, and instead of moving to the right on the approach like a line ball player would or a less hook ball player, he just cranked it up or gave it more turn. Unfortunately, it went a little high.
Marshall Holman, at 21 years of age, the youngest player ever to win the Firestone Tournament of Champions, has marked with a spare in the 4th frame of this title game worth $21,000.
Mustang. The sky's the limit for 1981. Now Mustangs available with a rakish new T-roof. Mustang, born to run with the wind, sure-footed to handle quick turns. Mustang, a world of high gas mileage you might not expect from such a high-spirited car. Mustang. Capture a Mustang, America's most popular sports car.
Now 12% annual percentage rate financing at your participating Ford dealer.
Every professional bowler has an arsenal of his own. Special weapons for special lane conditions. Now, you can have your own arsenal in just 2 bowling balls from AMF. The AMF 3-Dot Classic in hard rubber for normal lane conditions. Now, the AMF 3-Dot Classic in soft rubber for lanes that demand more traction. Hard rubber 3-Dot, soft rubber 3-Dot. The arsenal from AMF.
Be sure to join us next Saturday for the oldest stop on the Pro Bowlers Tour, the $135,000 Showboat Invitational, live from Las Vegas, Nevada, where Wayne Webb, last year's leading money winner, defends his title at 3:30 Eastern Time over most of these ABC stations.
Martin strike in the 5th frame. Holman leads by 19. Martin left a 10-pin and they got a strike while we were waiting.
So Marshall Holman now has his work cut out for him, and we'll see how he'll play this one.
Chris, is the same shot that Martin converted, the 3-6, 9-10. That's caused by the ball breaking through very sharply. Amateurs don't often leave the 8-pin. They leave the 3-6, 10, but they don't leave the 9-pin. I'm sorry. And that's that ball cutting through. Normally a ball will deflect in and take the 9-pin out, but it's much more difficult this way.
Happy to have gotten it. Marshall Holman, the tournament leader.
Scoreboard tells the story. In the 4th frame, Martin overpowered the pins and left a slashing 10-pin, which would have put him in the lead in this match. But Holman still retains with 15 pins through 5. Championship match, $21,000 to the winner.
Marshall, only the 3rd bowler in history to win over $100,000 a year. Bowling very fast, Bo. Really.
Chris, I think that's the key to these young players. They don't sit up there and outthink themselves or whatnot. They know what they want to do before they get on the approach. 2 or 3 seconds, they're ready to go. Roth is the epitome of it. Even our Earl Anthony, who's in his 40s, is fast up there. He knows what he wants to do.
But we look at the other top finishers, the top 24. You see them listed there and the amount of money they earned this week.
Larry Lobb coming back. Dennis Lane, who struggled a little bit last year. Chuck Pierce. Boise Huber from St. Louis, $1,900. Guppy Troop, one of the big 300 shooters on the tour. Larry Gray from local Torrance. And Jeff Mattingly making a comeback. Steady Mike Durbin and Bo Bowden round out the top 24. 48 players cashed, $850 for 48th place.
This is Martin shooting in the 5th frame, getting a strike. The 6th frame, he had a strike in the 5th, and we had to bowl through once because our first game went long as Martin, in a tiebreaker at 2:22 against Gary Dickinson, won 40-37. So it's taken a lot more time than usual. Thus, we're running behind here in our hour-and-a-half live telecast as Marshall Holman coolly sits by. He's the tournament leader, but this man has won 3 matches in a row.
After trailing by 20 in the 3rd frame, he can now take the lead by 6 with a strike in the 7th.
No. 2-8.
By no means a gimme. The 2-8 is much more difficult, as all the bowlers know, than just the 2-pin. You have to hit flush on that 2-pin to make sure you carry out the 8. Holman with a conversion would trail by 6. Pardon me, Martin.
Very carefully placed shot, following through as he would for his first shot in the frame. We'll be back.
When I was coaching, I was the boss. I used to feed them, dress them, get them to bed on time. Now I treat them to our favorite beer, right?
Like beer from Miller.
It's got a 1/3 less calories than the regular beer. And what else?
It's less filling, Red.
And they really like the taste. Another beer, anyone?
Yeah. Do it.
What's the magic word? Please.
Like beer from Miller. Everything you always wanted in a beer, and less.
Now, the Firestone steel-belted Trax 12 Radial. Trax 12 has special traction bars for pulling power in snow, but they're hidden in the Trax 12 tread for smooth, quiet turnpike driving. Long-lasting Trax 12 with traction you can see. Traction 12 months a year. Trax 12, Firestone's lowest-priced steel-belted white wall radial.
Teamwork. For over 200 years, the Marines have met challenges, walked proud, and always as a team. That's why in a world full of uniforms, only one says United States Marine. Maybe you can be one of us. The few, the proud, the Marines.
Coming up on ABC's Wide World of Sports next Saturday, Tinseltown will never be the same when the one and only Harlem Globetrotters hit Hollywood. Plus, the most important event on the World Cup circuit via satellite from Kitzbühel, Men's World Cup downhill skiing. Then on the 24th, World Cup gymnastics and World Cup ski jumping, the Springer tourney from Innsbruck. Concluding the month will be motocross racing and the unique tandem surfing championship. Travel the world of sports this January with ABC's Wide World of Sports.
The 7th frame, Marshall Holman left the 10th, covered it. Then in the 8th, the 6th, 7th, 10, came up with an open frame, lost the lead to Steve Martin, who in the 8th frame strikes. 148 through the 7th, strike in the 8th for this man who's won 3 matches up to this point, and we're in the final match.
And this is how he won the U.S. Open when he defeated Earl Anthony last year. Martin kept himself in the match, and then in a crucial situation, put the strikes home. Right now, he can take a 19-pin lead and really put Holman's back to the wall. Strike working, 8th frame. Double in the 9th would give him a 19-pin lead.
There's that double. This is the Miller High Life Classic. The Miller Brewing Company sponsoring 2 of our events later on in Milwaukee, and the president, Bill Howell, is here, along with the executive vice president, Larry Williams, and senior vice president, Tom Shropshire. And Marshall, who's always bowled well in Miller Classics, really wanted to win this one today with the strike in the foundation frame.
Marshall Holman must strike to have any chance of winning. If he does not strike, Martin is the winner. Holman can go 219 and put the pressure on Martin. Martin working at a 218 pace, Holman at a 199, but Holman can strike and close the match down and take the lead. Must strike right here.
He stuck at the line, nearly went over the foul line. Marshall Holman.
See you later. He left the 4, 6, 7, 9 in the match. The winner is going to be Steve Martin without even having to bowl, Chris.
So Steve Martin in the very first winter tour event, Miller High Life Classic, for $21,000 and an awesome Miller High Life trophy, leads the 10-pin. Won 3 matches, including a very tiring first tiebreaker match. It's really something to see, and we hope you were here watching our live telecast. Next week, Las Vegas.
Another big prize fund, Chris. Martin can finish with a best of 217. Holman with a 185.
That's Mr. Bill Howell out there with the trophy. So it's well known that Steve Martin, a 22-year-older from Kingsport, Tennessee, has won his 4th PBA title. He went from 4th position, winning the first match, to win 4 in a row, $21,000, leaving the 5-pin, and he finishes with a 216 here at the Wonder Bowl in Anaheim, California, to Marshall Holman's, and a hug from Kim. What sincerity here on the approaches in Anaheim. Nelson Burton Jr. and I, Chris Schenkel, hope you'll join us. Kurt Gowdy and Larry Cavallino and Kathy Cook and Joel Feld and Pete Englehart were all here, along with an extraordinary technical group to bring you this coverage. The winner, Steve Martin. So stay tuned for a special extended edition of ABC's Wide World of Sports, featuring the Hula Bowl from Honolulu and international swimming at halftime. Travel arrangements made through a promotional fee paid by United Airlines. More people fly United to Hawaii than any other airline. That's what Friendly Skies are all about. This has been a presentation of ABC Sports.